Beyond 3D. Hello, Matt.
How are you doing, Clint?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, very good. Welcome, everybody out there, to this week's edition of Beyond 3D. Hopefully everyone's had a phenomenal week. In spite of the news that's going on around the world, there's a lot of good that's going on out there as well. So welcome to this week's edition. What we're going to do is wax philosophic a little bit and celebrate a bit of an anniversary, I would say, wouldn't you?
You call it waxing philosophical, I call it highlighting Kaka.
Well, a lot of stuff is going on.
There's a lot. It's like an overflow at the moment. There's just way too much information out there, and you and I it's like we have to cherry pick these days, don't we?
You do have to cherry pick a lot of things, but the fact of the matter is, that's what we're here to do, because we have to make sure that our guys out there get the decent information and know what's exactly going on out there. I think everyone is totally in agreement that what's going on in the United States politically right now is a little bit wacky, to say the least. I would say it's wacky anyway.
Have you seen this guy called Trump?
Yes, actually I have.
There you go.
Well, that's about as wacky as it gets, so you basically have to just keep watching that to see what's going to happen next in that space. But quite frankly, beyond just Donald Trump, there are a lot of other things going on. I think something very important happened.
Okay, hang on a second. Lots of things important happen. I don't want to go any further without highlighting something about Trump.
Okay, go for it.
And not Trump per se, but the whole political arena that's going on over there at the moment. If I was undecided, if I sat on the fence and if I didn't have an allegiance towards any kind of political party, I'd be voting for the candidate who held themselves with the utmost of humility, respect. What I've witnessed over the last couple of weeks is nothing but kindergarten, schoolyard, ridiculous, childish. It's not leadership quality. It's
not leadership quality, and that is why in the last Republican debate that happened, what happened was they toned it down to the point where everybody was amazed that most of the stuff that was going on before didn't happen again. But what you just stated, to me, means you would vote for Bernie Sanders.
No. What's the point of voting for anybody? Hillary's already, it's a signed, done deal. I've been telling you this for years.
Yes, you have been saying that. You're on the record. I understand that.
Look, and that's why you've seen nothing of Hillary lately. That's okay. Not in the capacity of the other candidates. She's stepped back and she's been very ninja-ish.
Well, she can watch the show.
Exactly.
And that's what she's doing. So
now, what happened this week?
This week, something that I didn't expect to happen happened.
The big Fuk?
No.
Oh.
No. This is still with the political arena.
Oh, okay.
We'll get into that other thing in a minute.
Okay.
What happened was Ben decided to back Trump.
Okay.
Ben Carson, doctor, who was running against him.
Yep.
Talking about him possibly being in the education department, heading the education department if a Trump administration were to get in. I find that amazing that someone like him would do that, and again, that's my opinion, but that's the whole thing about the political arena over there. It drives me nuts.
I don't like this whole, if you do this for me, I will do this for you.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Hang on a second, are they not supposed to be serving the people, not each other?
Oh, get real.
Well, that's what is it with your country?
It's always been that way. It's self-serving. It has nothing to do with the people. But
it's very self-serving.
All right, enough of that. You can get into that, and it'll actually drive you down. So let's pick it up a little bit and talk about something else that's negative. And that is, it is a 5th anniversary.
There's nothing to celebrate with this.
No, but what's interesting with this show, with Beyond 3D, is the fact that we like talking to people that are on cutting edge as far as technology is concerned, spiritually, esoteric topics and things like that. We haven't talked to this person, but a while back in the 90s or the early 2000s, actually, I used to listen to one of my favorite radio hosts in the States, which was Art Bell.
I discovered him for the first time about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Loved the way he did the show. Late night, midnight in the desert kind of a thing, and it was just a great show to watch. But the one person he would have on quite a bit was somebody who was a remote viewer, and that was Major Ed Dames.
Can you explain to our listeners, who some people might not know, what a remote viewer is?
Okay, a lot of people out there are known as clairvoyants. They can basically astral travel, they can predict, and that's not really predictions, they can see things that are going on in different dimensions. They can leave their body physically, and they can travel to places and tell you exactly what's going on, let's say halfway around the world from where you are now. So we are sitting here in Australia. a clairvoyant could actually leave their body, go to New York City, tell you what's going on the corner of 51st Street and 5th Avenue. Boom. They can actually tell you that kind of thing. What the United States did was what they do with everything. They decided they wanted to model.
Can I just say the Defense Force is on record for the United States in actually using remote viewers, aren't they?
They are indeed.
Yes.
They wanted to model. So what they did was they looked at what a lot of these sages and yogis and meditators were doing, and they decided they would model it, and they came up with remote viewing. Now, they did this in the Army, I believe, first, and what happened was they trained Army personnel, military personnel, to be able to remote view, to have clairvoyance, but they did it from a scientific method where it could be repeatable. So they came up with certain strategies that they could use that could get a person to leave, per se, their body, go to a specific target, and be able to report what was going on at that target and come back with that information.
As an observation, as an observer.
As an observer. But at the same time, we used to say if you study evil, evil studies you. When these remote viewers actually go to certain places, they are studying, but they are also being studied.
That's funny you say that. That's got a little bit to do with the story I'm still debating what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, interesting. But I digress. Anyway, Major Ed Dames made a prediction, and that prediction was quite interesting. So what I thought we would do is I thought we would play you an excerpt from the Art Bell show going back a few years and take a listen to what remote viewer Major Ed Dames had to say.
Even more predictions were revealed on national radio, but this next event was more terrifying than many could have imagined.
I was flabbergasted by the data I got as a result of remote viewing the next X day in Tokyo, because this reactor problem, a reactor breaking, and what I said to the Japanese, I said, and on national radio in my country, this is going to be at least a mini Chernobyl. At least a mini Chernobyl. So again, what I said on national radio in my country, because the Japanese would not want to scare their citizens with this knowledge, was that Japan's going to experience, and when they experience this big earthquake, this next big earthquake, Tokyo will be okay, but this reactor problem will cause at least a mini Chernobyl.
But their breeder reactor is going to break, causing essentially another Chernobyl.
Ed, is that a double containment type reactor?
It is, but it doesn't matter.
How big an earthquake are you talking about?
We're talking about a pretty big earthquake. These reactors in Japan are designed to take earthquakes up to about 7.8 without even breaking.
Right.
And so we're talking about a real catastrophic earthquake, a very big shaker. It does not do a lot of damage to Tokyo. We know, for instance, we believe, based upon our work, and have described this for the Japanese viewing audience, the large modern skyscrapers standing.
On March 11, 2011, this tragic prediction came to pass. A massive 8.9 earthquake struck off the coast of Japan, resulting in a tsunami that swept across the Japanese landscape, engulfing entire towns. Just as Ed Dames predicted, power plants were damaged, resulting in the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl.
Beyond
3D. So there you have it, a bit of a prediction from a remote viewer about an event that hadn't quite happened yet, but this is something that he had envisioned. So
what was the time period over? Like how far back?
That was about 18 months before the event happened.
Okay.
So, not bad.
Not bad, well, considering it was on record too.
Yeah, on record. But today is the this week is the 5th anniversary of the Fukushima incident in Japan.
And hasn't that just enhanced the world?
Oh, immensely.
I don't understand why it's still not on the front page of every newspaper today, still.
Well, a lot of alternative media outlets there are literally monitoring and watching what is going on there, and it's very interesting. All of the things that happened there, it's still a ghost town.
I've got a list of...
You got a list?
I've got a list.
Ooh.
I don't know if you want to hear it.
No, we like lists. Yeah, they're not bad. Yeah.
thanks to Fukushima, thank you Fukushima, polar bears, seals and walruses along Alaska's coastline are suffering from a fur loss and open sores. And wildlife experts are studying whether or not the fur loss and open sores detected in 9 polar bears in recent weeks is widespread and related to similar incidents along the seals and the walruses. But Matt, the bears were among 33 spotted near Alaska, and they weren't doing too well. Apparently the Fukushima wave has just washed. It's gone pretty much from the entire east coast, along the east coast of America, and now it's washing its way up towards Alaska.
East coast of Japan up.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
across to the west coast of
the United States. It's interesting insofar as that's Alaska. Yeah. What about what's going on in California? What's going on in Oregon, and what's going on in Washington State as well, insofar as fish life is concerned?
Well, I know 2012, the Vancouver Sun reported that cesium-137 was being found in a very high percentage of fish that Japan was selling to Canada. 73% of mackerel tested had it, 91% of sardines, 93% of tuna and eel. Pretty much the type of fish that feed the world, just riddled with high radiation levels. And that wave, actually, that radiation wave, so from Fukushima, just think of like a ribbon wave that pushes its way across towards America. Allegedly, any kind of fish that swam through the wave dropped dead instantly.
Amazing.
And it's making its way across the Californian food belt, so keep that in mind.
Well, there are people out there that will actually be monitoring and using Geiger counters and things like that to test radiation.
But it's too late.
Yeah, well, it's been going on for 5 years now, so what you basically have to do is hope that something will be able to be done about the fact that people 30 years from now are going to start dropping like flies. It does take time to get through the system, but it is going to have a dramatic effect. It's having a dramatic effect in Japan, and the problem about Japan was it's one of the few countries where the population is actually going negative out there right now. And so what you have is a situation where, for lack of a better term, a nuclear event happened, and it literally wiped out an area north and northeast of Tokyo, and to the point where people are still not allowed to go into certain areas there. They are still working to try to shut down the plant and to make sure to stabilize it in some way, shape, or form, but it's not really working quite well.
No, and you know what? We're not getting the full picture either as to what level of safety is being used at the moment, or where the safety level's at. For all we know, the whole thing could be totally getting stripped and falling apart as we speak.
And as that happened, all of a sudden, a lot of the other nuclear reactors in the United States are also being brought into question right now because they are not as stable as most people would make it out.
Not as stable as Australia's nuclear reactor.
And Pine Gap, yeah. That one's pretty good, I believe.
That's a good one, allegedly.
So you never know along those lines, but it's very interesting. So you had a Major Ed Dames who came up, and what he did was he used remote viewing, the techniques of remote viewing, came up with a target, and that target was a nuclear reactor somewhere. He described what was going on at that nuclear reactor. It hadn't happened yet, but that event actually came to fruition. So it's quite interesting when you get into things like that and see what can be done when the military tries to get involved with esoteric studies and the things that they can actually come up with. It's quite interesting what the military can do when it comes down to experimentation in certain areas.
Well, they took a very left of field turn delving into the esoterics back in the 60s, didn't they, when they had a division of soldiers who used to take psychedelics. They'd try and get goats to drop dead just by using the powers of their psychedelic minds.
Yes, indeed.
The men who stare at goats.
Yeah, they made a movie about that, and quite frankly, they believed it happened, but what? The goat could have died of natural causes.
The goat could have died, but then again, you know what? How powerful the power of thought is.
Yes, and when a goat drops dead like that, what are you going to do? But what I want to do now is I want to give you guys another little clip of what Ed Dames is saying lately. He had gone underground for a while, and because of that, who knows, a lot of people started to question remote viewing. Other remote viewers came out and about and started saying different things about him. The typical infighting started to happen, but the fact of the matter is, it is a viable technique that is being used out there right now.
Could I say that, would there be a lot of pressure in between remote viewers to actually perform
Oh, I would say there might be some pressure.
If you came out and said that, hey, I'm a remote viewer, I'll help, I'll do this, I'll do that, you'd have an expectation placed on you that, yes, you could help. If you didn't rise to the challenge or what it was, the level of competency that you said that you would have, next time that'd bring somebody else in. So I'd imagine that'd be very competitive.
It would be competitive. Egos do get in the way.
Egos. I'm not talking about monetary. Egos.
Egos can get in the way indeed. So.
All right, big boy, why don't you hit that clip?
Okay. Well, this is another clip. This is from George Noory, coast to coast in the United States.
Another stalwart veteran of American Airways.
Yes. And believe me, even between he and Art Bell, there's a lot of friction going on right now.
Well, you're talking egos, though.
You're talking pride, you're talking ego, you're talking doership, and those are the things we're trying to get away from. But this clip is about more things, let's say, that are going on this planet that most people don't necessarily know about. So let's take a listen to that.
Beyond.
3.
I'm scared.
I mean,
I've been scared for a while.
I don't hear you painting a rosy picture of the future.
There is one rosy thing out there, though, George.
What is it?
And it's not too far away. This is where these groups of Tibetan monks and I agree. And we've seen, as remote viewers, we've seen this time and time again, and I stand by it. When the Earth core changes the most, and the stuff really hits the fan, and the sun, and it appears that the universe is snuffing us, things start to calm down, but the Earth is very barren. The Mad Max scenario has run its course, and there is somebody else here helping us to rebuild. And by the way, they're here now.
E.T. intervention?
Yep, and we've been watching them very closely.
I haven't heard you talk about this in a long time.
I haven't. And there's certain classified things about it I can't talk about, but I'm going to say some things tonight that I haven't said before, because I do want to give people some hope, so that they know that some of their children and grandchildren will, even if they're not, will still be around here to rebuild this planet with some help.
So you are saying that there could be some extraterrestrial intervention to bail us out of this?
There already has been on numerous occasions, and they're still doing. I'm going to give you specific examples.
Do they look like us?
Yep. Well, one aspect, there's two sides of this. One is esoteric. Let's go back to the idea of the abductions. For instance, the Travis Walton abduction.
Okay.
There's also the Ariel school incident in 1994 outside of Zimbabwe, where all the school children walked out and were confronted by gray-looking, bug-eyed folks from flying saucers and all that.
Waving at them.
Yeah, but they were not really there. That agency can play our minds and has like a fiddle. They are extremely. That was not an objective experience. The kids their minds were being played. It was a screenplay that was implanted in them, and that agency is very different. And they have actually prevented World War III about 3 times since 1954. They've actually stopped that, but they do not look like us, and they are more interdimensional than anything else like that. However, if you go onto the web and if you've listened to me over the years talk about these glowing plasma balls that have stopped our nuclear weapons test, I'm saying our U.S., the Trident missile, submarine missile test that they've stopped. And there's actually photos of these things where it looks like them firing a beam of light into a missile warhead, and then the missile warhead goes off course. Have you seen any of these?
Yes, I sure have.
Right. Yeah. Well, those things, when the Navy and the CIA came to me as the operations officer, the size spy unit, and said, could you give us some information about this? And I came back to them, they're not ours, and they're not the Russians, and they're not from around here, but there are humans involved. Those are not craft or vehicles or objects. There's more like a plasma ball, a plasma creation, a tool that's generated somewhere else by people that look like us, and they are human, George, but they're not born on this planet. And
That's
they have
dramatic.
a base, and the base is on the surface of this planet.
How long have they been here?
I don't know.
It sounds like that they're preparing for something.
Yes, they are preparing, and they've essentially stopped in conjunction with this other agency or this other group. The group is actually probably a gross misnomer. This other agency, they probably stopped us from going. They know where every single warhead of every country is. They've allowed Nagasaki and Hiroshima to happen. They've allowed other things to happen. And by the way, they have the ability to suck up radiation. They have tools to do that. We've seen them. So those are going to be necessary if all the reactors, let's say in the Great Lakes area, go,
Well, it's funny. My son's been transferred from St. Louis to Las Vegas. He's a executive casino host. And so I went to see him last weekend when he was moving. And as I'm at the airport, there's a nice couple there. They're behind me. And she says, "Are you George Noory?" And I turned around and said, "Yep." And so we started talking. They listened to the show a lot, religiously. But her husband told me that his father worked out at Minot, North Dakota, and we've had a couple guests on who've talked about UFOs shutting down missile silos. Well, he told his son, and this guy's dead now, he told his son, he said, that story's absolutely true, that we were out there monitoring these sites, and these strange craft came by and shut these missile systems down. We could not launch if we were ordered to.
It's not really a craft, George. It's this plasma.
It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like, and they can shape it any way they want. But it's a tool it's a temporary tool that is projected. I'll use that term loosely from a terrestrial here on Earth base by people that look like you and me, but they're not born here. They're born far, far away, and their allegiances are not to us, but to something to entities that do not look like them or us.
It sounds like a galactic federation.
Beyond 3D.
Okay, for this edition of Beyond 3D, what we thought we would do is take a look at this latest issue of Nexus magazine from Duncan Rhodes and the guys up in Queensland. And in it, there was a really great article. That article was about, let's see, the top 10 archaeological finds of 2015. And so we thought we'd go through them because quite interesting what was going on with that. So, literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a few of these to you. And actually, I'm going to read all of them to you because I really think they're great and it's good to know what's going on out there. So, listed at number 10, mummified monk revealed inside Buddha statue. The shocking discovery was made in February when Dutch researchers studying a Chinese Buddha statue found that it contains the mummified remains of a Buddhist monk. The monk is believed to be the Chinese master Liu Quan of the Chinese meditation school who died around 1100 AD. The finding may reflect an example of self-mummification, where monks undertook years of grueling rituals to mummify themselves to death. The practice was also widespread in Japan starting over 1,000 years ago and continuing until it was banned in the 19th century. We'll put the pictures up on the Beyond 3D Facebook page, but when you take a look at this, you see a beautiful bronze Buddha statue. And as they examine the statue with a CT scan, you will see the mummified skeletal remains of a monk inside. Number 9 on the list. DNA analysis of an ancient skeleton's established origins of the Basques. The Basque people with their unique language, traditions, and customs have been an enigma to anthropologists for years. Their origins have long been a mystery. Researchers now believe they have finally pinpointed the beginnings of this special group of people from a study of 8 ancient skeletons found in a cave in northern Spain. The results of DNA analysis suggest that prehistoric Iberian farmers are the closest match to the modern Basques. The new information contradicts the previously held belief that the Basque ancestors were earlier groups of pre-agricultural hunter-gatherers. Furthermore, the scientists claim that the ancient ancestors of the Basques arrived in the region mixed with some other farmers and hunter-gatherers and then were isolated. Number 8. Ultraviolet light shows hidden text in Welsh Book of Arthurian Stories. Cambridge University researchers discovered that parts of one of the most important books in Welsh history were erased and some of the texts on its animal skin pages overwritten. The 13th century book titled The Black Book of Carmarthen includes Arthurian stories, Christian prayers, and poetry. A man who owned the book in the 16th century, probably Jasper Griffith, erased verse, doodles, and marginalia that had been added to the manuscript over the centuries as it changed hands. Using photo editing software and ultraviolet light to examine the vellum pages, the scholars revealed poetry that is unknown in the Welsh canon. The poems are fragmentary, but the scholars hope that with further analysis they can read the text, which they think is the ending of a poem on a preceding page and a new poem at the bottom of the page. It's also interesting, just a little side note with that, is that the British Parliament just changed the way they are going to make their laws. Now in Britain what they do is laws that are made are written on vellum, on calfskin. And they are going to change that practice now, and ultimately what will happen is it will save the lives of 150 calves, and it'll cost about £250,000 less. So, a little bit of getting up to date with the way the British write and look at their laws. Number 7, Etruscan tomb with sarcophagi and treasures unearthed in Italy. Archaeologists made a rare discovery near a small town of Città della Pieve, near Perugia, in Italy. A 2,400-year-old sealed and untouched Etruscan tomb. The burial chamber contained sarcophagi and a wealth of grave goods, and providing a fascinating window into the mysterious civilization that disappeared around 2 millennia ago. The contents of the discovered tomb have been transferred to a museum in Città della Pieve in order for restoration and further study to be conducted. There are plans to display the finds to the public in the near future. The marble sarcophagus contained a male skeleton and bears a long inscription including the name Lattice, which may refer to the individual inside the coffin. A sarcophagus covered with plaster also had an inscription. However, the coffin was damaged in a collapse that occurred in antiquity, and the inscription is now thousands of fragments. Nevertheless, the sarcophagus remains sealed, and archaeologists expect to find a skeleton inside. Number 6. Tomb found of previously unknown Egyptian queen. A team of Czech archaeologists discovered a tomb in an ancient Egyptian necropolis that belongs to a pharaohic queen who ruled around 4,500 years ago and was previously unknown to historians. The tomb was found near Abu Sir, often called the site of the forgotten kings of the 5th dynasty. The tomb belongs to a wife of Neferefre, who was named Kentakawes III. 2 previous queens of Neferefre with the same name have already been identified. Egyptian antiquities minister Hamdo El Hamate said it was the first time that the name of this queen had been revealed. In fact, she had been unknown before the discovery of her tomb. He added that her name and rank had been inscribed on the inner walls of the tomb. The archaeologists found about 30 utensils, 24 made of limestone and 4 of copper, inside the tomb.
Beyond 3D. Aren't you just a font of knowledge?
Oh, we try.
Hey, I just left the studio then while you were doing that.
Yeah.
And I got a drink of water in the kitchen. I just wanted to let you know we've been broken into.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not nice.
No, there's ants everywhere.
Oh my. Those little buggers again?
So, hey, they're doing what they've got to do.
We'll have to think of something to do to get rid of those guys, won't we?
No.
Not easy. You know what? We'll just leave them be.
I said that they're just doing what they've got to do.
We'll leave them be.
They've got their part to play.
Yeah, somewhere. You know, as long as they're not in your house or mine.
How many ants do you reckon there are in the...
Oh, my goodness. I don't even want to know.
Would they equal grains of sand or not?
Come close.
Yeah, I think so too.
What was it that Joseph Campbell used to say in his the Hero of 1,000 Faces? That's what it was. Indra, the god of heaven, was looking over his domain and was walking around through gardens and things like that, and he saw ants walking by.
Did he have really good eyesight?
I guess he did.
Okay.
And one of the Brahmins came up walking with him, and he was looking down at these ants, and he said, "Look at them all. I'm ruler over all this domain." And the Brahmin went to him and he said, "Do you see those ants?" He went, "Yes." Indra's all. At one point in time, they all were the ruler of heaven. In other words, Indra at one point in time was an ant. Leave them be. You never know what they might grow into or evolve into.
Mm-hmm. Or do what they've got to do.
Or let them do what they've got to do, yeah. Root for the under ant, as Felix Unger used to say on The Odd Couple. What can you do? That is the first half of the countdown from Nexus Magazine to the top archaeological finds of 2015.
Duncan, you're doing a wonderful job with Nexus Magazine too.
Yeah, we got the issue sitting up here.
And they got the 2016 conference coming out too.
Ah, yes, that's right.
Let's give him a plug.
Absolutely. So everybody get up to the Sunshine Coast because a good time will be had by all at the Nexus conference for 2016.
Oh, I did not know. I'm just reading what they've got on. So it's Saturday the 18th of June until Monday the 20th of June. So obviously it's going to be over that weekend at the Novotel Twin Waters Resort on Queensland. Nexus Conference, information and analysis on subjects such as Bigfoot, artificial intelligence, black goo, technology. Don't sit there and just look at me like that. You enjoy it when I trip, don't you? You love it. Technology updates.
Oh, that's easy.
Such a simple word. The latest on alternative health, giants, the afterlife, exopolitics, missing people, mysteries, and more to be announced.
That'll be actually very, very interesting. There's some really great topics there, and if you get the right people in,
Did you not tell me we were going to go to this?
Yeah, we're going to get there. We'll get there.
I don't know if they can handle it.
I think they can handle it. They'll be able to handle it. And it'll be a lot of fun for us as well, because we'll get to hobnob with a few people that we'd like to meet. We get them on the show and do things like that.
June. Are we free that weekend?
We're going to have to see if we are.
Well, hang on a sec. We've got to do a show that night.
Well, we can do it from there.
Really?
Why not?
Do you want to do a live broadcast from the Nexus conference?
Oh, yeah, we'll ask Brendan if we can do that. Yeah, that'll go over quite well, yeah.
Please, Brendan.
Yes, but quite frankly, wait a minute. When we talked to Nexus Magazine before, when we talked to Duncan, he mentioned black goo.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
There might be an update.
That was a show we did early last season, when we spoke to Duncan. So if anybody wants to go through and finger your way through the podcasts, it was very, very interesting. I also remembered.
Yeah.
He spoke about Loosh in that interview, and I actually watched another interview the other day with somebody totally different who actually mentioned all about Loosh as well. So that term is being thrown around a lot at the moment for a descriptive word of what negative energy is.
Yeah. And those that feed off of it. And didn't I have an interesting little experience the other week? Yes, you did. But you said you would think about whether
I said I'd think about, how hypocritical of me not to share something that was it was pretty meaningful. But also foreign. So it wasn't a situation that I'd come across or I'd found myself in before. But working with Trisha Robertson, that we interviewed the other week.
Yes.
And rack my brain up, it's gone brain dead, Matt. Help me out.
I'm thinking myself, because you went, it was Diana Cooper.
Thank you very much for that. I had a name on the tip of my tongue. Diana Cooper. So we're talking about light workers.
Yes.
And what happens, Matt, when you start looking at light work and investing your time and energy into light work?
All kinds of interesting things happen to you.
Not good,
and usually a few of what happens is, quite frankly, you were tested.
Yeah,
and you were tested to make sure that you know what path you're now about to embrace.
Yeah, I was tested.
Yeah.
Look, I left a friend's place in my car very, very early in the morning. I did something that was very out of character for me, and I don't want to go too much into personally what actually happened, but I bought something on the iTunes store, and it wasn't a positive piece of music. It was a very negative piece of music, and I had no recollection of buying it. I knew I did it, but I didn't choose to buy it, if you know what I mean. And because we've opened ourselves up to talking to those kind of people, those light workers, it pretty much opened up ourselves to a lot of negative, what would you call them?
Entities.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. So I did have a bit of a run-in with one of those during the week in the backseat of my car. I was not in the backseat of my car, but there was something in the backseat of my car, and it did not make me feel good at all. So after I purchased that piece of music on the iTunes store, I had to pull over to do it, but I don't remember doing it, and that was the bizarre thing. Like something made me pull over, buy that negative piece of audio off the iTunes store, and when it started playing on my phone through my car, I went, hang on a minute, what's going on? Why did I do this? And I pretty much had to pull myself in check and ask it to leave. And you said to me that was a good thing.
Yeah. What happens is, or at least this is my interpretation of what you went through. Yes, you were tested, but also certain aspects come up and can leave.
Okay.
And so a negative aspect leaves. And it's not that you're a negative person. Negative aspects exist all over this plane of existence.
Well, you have to.
They can attach to people. All kinds of things can happen.
But you have to. Otherwise, life's full of the yin and the yang.
It's the world of duality.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing can come up. But the fact of the matter is, being that it came up and out and is now
gone,
that's all that really matters. That aspect has left your life, and you no longer have to deal with that aspect.
Can I just say, just so people understand, I didn't see anything in the backseat of my car. It was the same sensation that one would experience if they walked into an area and they went, oh, that does not feel good. Something here doesn't feel good.
Right.
That's the sensation I had coming from the backseat of my car. It was that sensation of something is not good, it doesn't feel right, and there's something not, bad, something negative.
Yeah.
There was just a negative energy, and I just went out.
Well, I'm glad that you brought it up, and you experienced it, and it's gone now. So therefore, being that you could share, I will share this with you. And I believe this is in my first book, The Path. And what happened to me was I was in San Francisco, and I was on a bus going home. And very nondescript people on the bus were going up to Visadero in San Francisco, and out of the corner of my eye, a man in a pork pie hat is walking up the street, West Indian looking to me, because I'm West Indian. And quite frankly, as soon as I saw this person, I had no choice. Hairs on the back of your neck stood up. Hit the button, ducked down like a commando pose, crawled to the back exit, out the back door, and had to get as far as I possibly could away from this person without them seeing me, because as far as I was concerned, the person that I saw out of the corner of my eye, then was a physical person that I saw, was evil personified, and every fiber in my being said, get as far away from that as you possibly can. I ran. The bus wasn't going fast enough. I ran home.
Okay.
That kind of stuff exists, and it is around people. It can appear as an orb. It can appear as a person. It can appear as a feeling, energy in and around you. So a lot of that stuff can happen.
That's the best way I can explain it. It was just that real sick energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just decided to come say hello. And I told it quite politely to go away.
And goodbye as well. So that's the way it has to be, and that way you don't have to worry about it anymore, which is a good thing. So hey, next is you'll get an experience that's the exact opposite of that, and that can even be more confronting. Because believe me, when you experience something that is beyond ecstatic, you literally won't know what to do.
Beyond
3D.
So, those are the things we've been dealing with this week. It's a lot of interesting information that's going on out there. So we started off with a little bit of Ed Dames and with Fukushima and predictions along those lines. Nexus magazine, and we will get to the top 5 for 2015 in a little while as well. But, Clint, we have a couple of other things that we're going to have to ultimately deal with coming up.
Let's go. List it.
Well, we told everybody the other week.
That was really lazy of me, wasn't it? List it, because I'm sitting here reading Nexus magazine, so I'm listening to you, but
you're reading Nexus. Okay, okay. Wait a minute. What are you reading? What was the last thing that just crossed?
I was looking at the conference again. Just all the information. If anybody wants to have a look at it online, just go to www.nexusmagazine.com. Duncan would love the support.
He would indeed.
I was just glancing at that while you asked me a question.
Well, we are, folks, we're setting up a website as well, so that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll have a web page up, and you can get all the podcasts and things like that on the web page. So stick with us. We have it's a work in progress, so that will be coming as well.
And I need to apologize to our listeners because we're probably about 8 podcasts behind, and I need to speak to Michael Seuss about that happening.
Mr. Seuss. But the fact of the matter is, that's a good thing. Good information coming out that people will be able to get into and keep listening to. But hey, life the way it is.
Marijuana became legal in Australia in every state.
When?
I read an article about that the other day, but it's only for medicinal people that have a medical condition.
Right.
Yes.
Well.
And only because I'm looking at Nexus magazine. And
well, there you go. And it says here, hemp, the miracle product, and things like that. There's a big fight over those kinds of things. And quite frankly, I will give you what my teacher from the Philippines told me. If you can, do yourself a favor, don't worry about marijuana. There are some people, if you need it for medicinal purposes, you should not be denied it. But if you do not, do yourself a favor, just steer clear of it. A lot of the elementals and things that will come up for you, you definitely don't want to deal with depending on the state of mind you're in. So you're better off, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, I am not against anyone doing anything, but just be wary of it from a spiritual standpoint, from an esoteric standpoint. There are consequences to your actions if you do things like that.
I have no opinion on the matter whatsoever.
I hear you.
No. I'm not knowledgeable enough.
Look, I'm telling you what was said to me by somebody that I trust and somebody that has the experience to back it up, and therefore, I tend to listen. So, if that's what they say, I can go along with it.
I didn't mean to hijack where you were going with that conversation. Again, I was just looking at Nexus magazine.
Not at all. Nexus is a good thing.
It is a good. It's a wonderful magazine for $8.95. It's a wonderful magazine. There's plenty of stuff in there to digest.
So, what else is going on with you now?
Jinx, you can't say any. You can't.
Why
speak.
can't I?
I just said Jinx because you said what else.
Come on.
You know how it works. It's like the 5-second rule.
The 5-second rule? What's that?
When you drop something on the floor.
Yeah, 5 seconds you can still eat it.
Actually, it's 2-second rule, isn't it?
If you drop it on the floor, you can still eat it if it's 5 seconds old. What is it?
I'm pretty sure Mythbusters tried to bust the 2-second, 3-second, 5-second rule on food.
No, I don't know. No.
Once it comes into contact with a foreign, what would you call it, germ.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Throw it away.
Unless you want to build up your immune system.
Build up your immune system. Oh, no, that'll lead to vaccines and stuff, but we don't need to go there. That's another bugbear, as somebody would say to me. Bugbear, that's the word. I don't like going there because I know where it's going to lead, and people will not like my opinion on that.
Bugbear is an American term, isn't it?
Is it?
See, I think stone in my shoe is the equivalent of bugbear.
Okay, well, vaccines, all that kind of stuff.
Hang on a sec. You said you weren't going to go there.
You're right. I'm not.
Don't go there.
I'm not.
Don't go.
We won't. We'll go someplace else.
Can I tell you about... I can't say it without laughing.
Go ahead.
Can I tell you about my friend Tim?
Go for it.
Okay, so before we get into... Hang on, what's the time? Yeah,
it can't be that long.
We've got time. I'm just looking at what the clock says. Yeah, we've got time tonight. I watched a clip the other day on Nibiru. Now, we've talked about Nibiru before. Planet X. So, we've talked at length about its elliptical orbit. We've talked at length about where it goes, why it's not here, how it whips in and out of the universe. We've talked at length about the rubbish that it's going to drag along. My friend Tim has a thought process along the lines of he's starting to prepare a bug-out kit and plans for trying to survive the passing of Nibiru should it allegedly come through our solar system. Now, for those people that don't know much about Nibiru, when it does, or allegedly it's meant to pass through our solar system, not collide with our planet, but pass through, the gravitational forces that it's going to play havoc with, is probably the best word, is immense. So we're talking 300-foot waves.
You're dead.
Yes, you are dead. Now, you're dead depending on where you're located. So there's all these different variables along the lines of how you would survive something like that.
Well, if he's going to survive that, he better get the heck away from here, we are.
Well, I'll tell you what his plan was, and it was very, very entertaining. So we were talking, I was contributing to this conversation about how you would survive something like that. Mm-hmm. So the highest point where we are here in Victoria, Australia, is Kosciuszko, I think. Mm-hmm. There is a place called Buxton, which is just outside of Melbourne, and it is up in the hills. It is very high. The alleged mapping of the pole shifts and melting and the cataclysmic 300 feet waves, the map that was simulated, the simulated digital computerized generated map that happened, it was like all of Western Australia was to be sunk. Mm-hmm. All of South Australia was to be sunk. And pretty much all that was left was a strip which was once Queensland, New South Wales and part of Victoria. So if you were to survive something along that kind of cataclysmic event, trying to combat 300-foot waves, Tim's plan was he was just going to go up to the mountains and dig a big hole. And when I say dig a big hole, his plan was to put a container in the ground and get up really, really high and be self-sufficient and look after himself. And we tried to argue with him and said, look, Tim, do you understand that the Earth's mantle is going to be shifting so fast that even if you do go up high and dig a hole, you're not necessarily going to be safe, because the magma under the ground, under the Earth's surface, deep down, and with all that pressure, there's going to be things getting pushed up through the ground, right, left and center. You've got 300-foot waves coming everywhere. Now, if a giant wave crashed across, it's not just the impact of that wave hitting you, it's eventually when it comes up one end and then it sloshes back the other way and it gets you back hitting in the other direction. Just like if you pushed your leg in a body of water in a bathtub down one direction, you're moving the water away and then it comes crashing back down. So we went through all this with him and we role played it and we worked out the logistics of how he was going to cope and survive all this, and we worked out he needed a giant piece of earth moving machinery to excavate his hole that he could bury his shipping container in to survive such an outcome. Now, I explained to him, Timmy, look, the latest research shows that the event itself with the shifting of poles and that should Nibiru pass through, you've got about a 28-minute window of where it's allegedly supposed to be nothing but chaos. Now, prior to that, the only other warning you're going to get is when you're looking up at the sun. If you use like a welder's piece of glass, like that they have in their visors, that takes the glare off. If you look up in the sky when allegedly Nibiru's meant to come past, if you can see it in the sky, you have around about 2 days. That's it. So, Timmy, I know you're listening tonight, and yeah, he's probably going through his LD catalogues now, looking at, allegedly, looking at different catalogues of things he can buy to help him through.
Can you put him in contact with Southern Oregon and Dr. Richard?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I tagged him in a couple of things with Dr. Richard Allen Miller today that he wasn't aware of, so I've sent him on a path. So watch this space and let's see how seriously Tim starts taking it.
That's interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Beyond 3D.
We're back talking about Nexus Magazine's The Twilight Zone, the top 10 historical and archaeological discoveries of 2015. Number 5, 4,000-year-old Egyptian manuscript rediscovered. The oldest known Egyptian leather manuscript, dating back some 4,000 years, was rediscovered at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, after it was pulled from a dusty old storage box where it had been lost for about 70 years. precious text contained fine quality, colorful depictions of divine and supernatural beings, which predate the famous drawings of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The manuscript measures 2.5 meters, 8.2 feet in length, making it the longest text ever found. Taking into account that it was written on both sides, we have more than 5 meters of texts and drawings, making this the longest leather roll from ancient Egypt. The ancient text, which dates from the late Old Kingdom to the early Middle Kingdom, 2300 to 2000 BC, is a religious manuscript and contains spells, which would most likely have been recited by a priest, and an illustrated composition, temple rituals, that would have also been adapted for funerary use. Number 4, River of Mercury located under Temple of the Feathered Serpent in Mexico. Archaeologists believe that the discovery of liquid mercury in a tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent in Teotihuacan, Mexico, may represent an underworld river that leads the way to a royal tomb or tombs. The remains of the kings of Teotihuacan, some of the most powerful rulers of pre-Hispanic world, have never been found. Such a discovery would be monumental, as it would unravel many of the mysteries surrounding this ancient civilization. The entrance to an 1800-year-old tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, the third largest pyramid at Teotihuacan, was discovered in 2003, and an extensive project involving human researchers and remote control robots has been ongoing ever since. The tunnel is the metaphorical representation of the conception of the underworld, said Sergio Gomez of the Instituto Nacional de Antropología de Historia. A large offering was found near the entrance to 3 chambers, suggesting that these could be the tombs of the city's elite. Due to the magnitude of the offerings that we found, the royal tombs, can't be in any other place, Gomez added. Number 3 on the list of the top 10 archaeological and historical finds of 2015. Urban myth confirmed as archaeologists discover hidden tunnels in Mexico. Talk of a maze of underground tunnels beneath the colonial city of Puebla in Mexico have long been disregarded as mere urban legend. However, city authorities confirmed that their existence is real. Believed to date back as early as 1531 when the city was founded, the subterranean tunnels reach up to 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles in length, beneath the historic center of the city. The tunnels were well used. Churches were communicating in secret alleys. There is a network of the main monasteries, from Santo Domingo, San Agustin, La Merced to San Javier, said Sergio Vergara Bermejo, manager of the Cultural Heritage and Historical Center of Puebla. The tunnels were also used during the Battle of Puebla in 1862 when Mexican troops faced the French army and were victorious. The plan is to transform the newly discovered subterranean world into a tourist attraction so that visitors can learn more about the stories and legends of this historic city. However, for now, the exact location of the tunnels is being kept secret. Number 2. Megalithic stone structures detected beneath Durrington Walls near Stonehenge. An enormous row of 90 megalithic stones was found buried beneath the prehistoric superhenge of Durrington Walls earthworks, only 1 mile from the world-famous site of Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England. The huge line of megalithic stones lies 3 feet underground and was discovered through the use of sophisticated radar equipment. Superhenge is believed to have been a huge ritual monument. The row of megalithic stones formed the southern arm of a C-shaped ritual enclosure which faced directly toward the River Avon, the rest of which was made up of an artificially scarped natural elevation in the ground. The monument was later converted from a C-shaped to a roughly circular enclosure, now known as Durrington Walls, Britain's largest prehistoric henge, roughly 12 times the size of Stonehenge itself. The presence of what appeared to be stones surrounding the site of one of the largest Neolithic settlements in Europe adds a whole new chapter to the Stonehenge story, said Nick Snassel, National Trust Archaeologist for the Stonehenge and Avebury World Heritage Site. And listed as number 1.
No. I don't want you to do number 1.
Oh.
Let's do number 1 next week.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's do number 1 next week.
We can do that.
I love the fact you're talking then about megalithics.
Okay.
Because I've been talking about them all day with Tim. Like I said,
Yep.
Tim. And he's right into it at the moment. Göbekli Tepe. So I'm going to try and get him to tell me all about it this week. And we'll either get him in here next week or I'll play you something about it next week.
Well, that'll be fantastic.
We're going to go.
We do. Guys, take really great care out there. We will catch you next week with another edition of Beyond 3D.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.